Welcome back to Dead Good Book Reviews. I'm Judith and you're watching another episode of Overbooked, the series where I review every single book on my shelves because I found a strange artifact in the ground and it led me to here. Today we are reviewing Binti by Nnedi Okorafor. Now, I know what you're thinking. You normally have a copy of a book to wave at this point because the whole premise of this series is reviewing the things on your shelves. I do have a copy of the first Binti. I don't know where it is. It may be that it's behind me somewhere and I just can't see it, or in a pile, but I don't know where it's gone. It's somewhere in the house. This is the difficulty of having multiple bookshelves and nothing is organised. I'm planning on fixing it at the end of the year. Don't you worry. For the meantime, let me put the cover up of the bind-up of the series. This is what it looks like. This is what you're looking for. Okay, we're good. Some quick disclaimers before we start. I was gifted the first book in the Binti series for Christmas 2019? I can't quite remember, but I did get gifted it then. The other two books in the series I did buy for myself. I think if you're going to buy these, I would recommend just buying the bind-up. I don't think it's worth buying them separately unless you're super keen on owning all the various iterations of a book. I'm going to keep this as spoiler-free as humanly possible. However, these are very, very short books. I don't think spoiling them would ruin the reading experience for you. I'm going to keep this as spoiler-free as I can. If you do want to go in knowing absolutely nothing, click away now, pause this video, come back when you've read it, we'll have a chat then. I will also link the story graph for the book below in case you want to check out any user-generated content warnings. This is a sci-fi space opera set of novellas. I think the first book toes the line of being more of a short story. I'm not certain of what the actual arbitrations are in page count between short stories, novellas, all that stuff. They're very short, they're not very long. That's all you need to know. The first book came out in 2015, so they're getting on a little bit now, but still fairly new. Nnedi Okorafor has written all sorts of stuff, some of which we will be talking about next week. We're going to talk about the Nisibidi Scripts series. She also worked on the Shuri comics, which is very cool. I'm not a very comics-driven person, but I might check those out at some point in the future. And on her website, she describes her work as being Afrofuturism and African Jujuism, in case that is some keywords you want to look up. Binti is the first of her people to go to this. The best way I can describe it is space university. It is a university off planet. Lots of different people from various different places around the galaxy, universe, are all meeting there, and Binti is the first of her people to get to go. First book tackles her journey there, during which the ship that she is on is attacked by the Medusa, which are kind of like jellyfish creatures that are at war, in conflict with everyone else, and the first book is about that journey, and the second and third books are the follow-on from that, which to tell you about the second and third books would be to spoil book one, but suffice to say, it does interesting things. I think book one is so short that I almost don't mind telling you how it ends, but I think for safety reasons, and for keeping this as spoiler-free as I can, I won't go too far into it. You'll just have to trust me. They build and develop on things, we go to different places, we see different things, they develop the world, they develop Binti as a character, they develop other characters. I think that the setting, or the settings, that we experience in this book are very cool, and I think having read more of Nnedi Okorafor's work now, I can definitely see the influences of this in her other works and vice versa. I think particularly in the third book, where we get to see more of Binti's home, I can definitely see elements of the Nisibidi script in there. There's some connections being made. It is very sci-fi, we have spaceships, but they are interesting spaceships. They're not spaceships like I've experienced before, they're more living ships. They are fascinating. I'd really love to just sort of see pictures of them and artwork and all that stuff. This is a series for which I would wish there were more artwork, just generally in my life. I think as a whole it doesn't get bogged down in the sci-fi setting of it all. It doesn't get, caught up in we need to make sure that everything is sciencey and accurate. It is much more a take it at its word, this works kind of story, which I personally prefer. I don't like to get bogged down in a whole lot of sci-fi detail, but if you're wanting to know how a fish spaceship works, this isn't necessarily going to do that for you, I'm sorry. However, I really, really like the setting. The other thing I've written down is the voice. Now, it's been a while since I read these, and I'll confess that the second and third one haven't stuck with me as much as the first one has, probably because I've read that twice. One of the things I remember really liking is the voice of the book. The overall tone of the story is really, really good. It powers you through. I think with something that is quite short, like these short stories, especially if you're reading them chunked out into three, you need that voice to really carry you through and to link all three together, and I definitely felt like that was the case. I've written as a pro, weirdness. They are a little bit odd. There's some weird stuff happening in the story, not in the case of like uncomfortable weirdness or kind of leaning into that like horror weirdness side of things. It's more, for me, just like this book runs with its own ideas. It goes, I'm going to do this, and doesn't hold back and doesn't stop that happening. So stuff happens to Binti that you're like, that makes me uncomfortable, but it keeps going and it works, and it's interesting weirdness, and it works with the setting. And I think that what I really like is that where you are in book one, even from the start of book one to the end of book one, it's only about 80 pages, and you're still going, I had no idea I was going to get there, and you take that all the way through to the end of book three, definitely had no idea it was going to get there. It's a great time. If you're the kind of person who likes a book that will surprise you, I think this is a series that you could definitely read and enjoy. However, obviously the flip side of that is that weirdness is then a con if you don't want to engage with that, if you're not on board, if you're not in the right headspace, if you're not enjoying that kind of thing, it's not going to be for you as much. I would say wait till you're in the right headspace to read these. I also think looking at Binti as a series, as 3 separate novellas that came out, I think they are somewhat imbalanced. The first one is very short, they get longer, but also in terms of what the plots are doing and what emotional weight is in each book, I don't think they balance particularly well. I don't know that they need to be. I don't think it was a problem as such for me personally, but I know that it's something I wanted to note, and it's why I think that actually, on reflection, you should just read the bind-up, don't read them separately. You'll have a better time reading the bind-up. I think part of that feeling of imbalance that, I can't think of the right word for it other than imbalance, is to do with the pacing of the books. I think some things are brought in at really odd times and ideas are introduced, and it's taking the approach of, we'll introduce these ideas when you need to know them, which is something I do like in sci-fi because I don't want to get bogged down in info dumps, but it does make it feel, in this kind of whole series where things are already feeling a bit confusing in terms of the pacing, it does make it feel odd when things get introduced and you're like, well, where was that 2 books ago? I don't know. I'm very nitpicking. I have to come up with cons, that's what reviews are, but I think overall it works very well, and I think possibly reading them as a bind-up you wouldn't feel that quite so much, because it would feel much more like 1 book rather than 3 stories. Other things that you might enjoy if you liked this, or things that if you have enjoyed you might like this, I'll find a way to say comparisons, well, one time, maybe. Remote Control by Nnedi Okorafor is my favourite Nnedi Okorafor work by far. I love it so much. I don't own a copy, so it won't be coming up in Overbooked until the time when I buy a copy, but we read it for Angela's channel, and it's just so good. It's fantastic. It's a really, really good novella. I also thought about other kind of space opera, similar kind of books, and the one that came to mind for me was Becky Chambers' To Be Taught If Fortunate. It's a very different in tone, and it's much more human, but I think it has some similar ideas behind bits of it. That might just be because I've not read many sci-fi novellas of this kind, but I still think it's well worth reading anyway. This has been a speedy one because I don't have a huge amount to say, because there's not a huge amount I can say without spoiling huge elements of the book. I do recommend going and checking out Angela's review for this series. I will link it if I remember. It'll be somewhere, or I'll just link Angela and you can go check out all of her videos because she's excellent. I do think you should read this. I think you should read the bind-up. That's pretty much my main takeaway from this. I think if you like Nnedi Okorafor's writing, it'll be good. I personally like it more than I've liked some elements of her writing and less than I've liked others. There's balance. You can't love everything an author writes all the same level. That's not how it works. Things compare to one another. That's how that goes. Right, I have a whole load of videos to film today, so I'm going to try and keep this short and sweet, and when you see me in this outfit again in the next video, don't comment on it. Don't worry about it. It's fine. I'm not hiding that my hair is an absolute mess. Shh. It's fine. Have you read Binti? Do you have plans to? Let me know down in the comments below. While you're down there commenting, if you haven't already, please do subscribe. It makes me feel loved and appreciated. But nothing makes me feel more loved and appreciated than my patrons, who get early access to videos and bonus content in exchange for supporting the channel and helping things keep going. If you would like to join their number, that's linked below, as is my Twitter and my Discord if you want to come have chill chats about books. Thank you so much for watching. That's all from me, and I will see you in the next one.
There's gonna be some bloopers now.
This is a sci-fi...